everybody, it's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be discussing the backup center position for the Chicago Bulls. Now, this is obviously assuming that if this core stays the same, if Vucevic remains on this team and the team is currently structured the way that it is at this point in time, we're going to be looking at some more backup center options because we've already talked about a few, but today I'm going to talk about two more, ladies and gentlemen, and I do feel like both of them are extremely important to look at. They're not as high of price, they're not really high of value, they may not even be that good compared to the other players that we've talked about, but again, we're in a situation where we don't have that much money to work with, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, if you go for trades, that could definitely help, but at this point in time, we do not have a lot of money. So these are players that I think the Chicago Bulls could potentially look at in order to, bolster their roster without spending too much in the process. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls in the backup center option. Out of the two options that I'm going to be talking about today, as well as the two options we've already talked about in relation to the backup center position and even the starting center position, who would you like as a center on the Chicago Bulls team? Now, before we go any further, I think it's very obvious with what Mark Eversley said in terms of his interviews and what a lot of rumors are being saying about the Chicago Bulls. It's no secret that we are looking for a rim protector and we are looking for a backup center. These are no secrets. These are very obvious to understand. And I do feel like we're going to be looking at some options that will be fairly unpredictable. So I'm going to be talking about options that I think are very unpredictable just because I don't personally know their situation, in all honesty. I don't know what their future is going to be. But they're two players that I feel like a lot of people would very much like on the Chicago Bulls team. And maybe they deserve an opportunity, but we'll have to wait and see in its entirety. They're both relatively young players, and I think they could very much be good backup center options for the Chicago Bulls. So the first one I want to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, is Nicolas Claxton. Played for the Brooklyn Nets, ladies and gentlemen. I believe, looking at his contract, he will be a restricted free agent in 2022. It is a very interesting option, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like the Brooklyn Nets at the moment do not have a lot of cap space to work with. They did get rid of James Harden, so I'm sure it could be in, signs to sign Nicolas Claxton back on a longer term deal. But all things considered, he didn't start that many games for the Brooklyn Nets. He was mainly a backup center for them. His season averages for the Brooklyn Nets this year, playing 47 games, average 8.7 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, 0.9 assists per game, shooting 67.4% from the field. Did not make a three, nor did he take a three this season for the Brooklyn Nets. And just looking at the rim protection side of things, he averages 1.1 blocks with 19 games started, and the majority of them, the rest of them, were either on the bench or he didn't play. I think this is a very good option for the Chicago Bulls on a budget. I don't expect him to be making more than what Mitchell Robinson or Mo Bamba would make. I expect him to make significantly less. I feel like he's not many players' first choice or people's first choice, but I also feel in terms of the value that he's going to have, I think it's very affordable for the Chicago Bulls. I think we can make and get this deal over the line. I think he's a good player. I believe he's 22 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong, so he's a young player as well. But all in all, it's a player that we would have to wait and see about. I think the only real negative towards Nicolas Claxton as an option is I think many people want a ready now player, a player that's going to come in and do the job right away. With Nicolas Claxton, I think he's someone that's still developing, still trying to get stronger, still trying to work on his game a little bit, and that might turn a lot of people off with the backup center position because you want a guy that's going to be ready to come in and make an instant impact. I'm not sure if Nicolas Claxton will be your guy, but I feel like outside of Mitchell Robinson and Mo Bamba, this player is probably your next best bet in restricted free agency. I think Brooklyn have a chance to re-sign him. I also think if Kyrie demands a trade, Nicolas Claxton could be packaged in with that type of trade. But at the end of the day, I do feel like the Chicago Bulls should be looking at Nicolas Claxton and seeing whether or not he would be worth pursuing in terms of restricted free agency. I don't feel like he's talked about enough in relation to the backup center position, so here's me discussing it now. I'm not too sure about his situation. Again, I don't know if he wants to stay there. I don't know if Brooklyn has long-term plans to sign him. I don't know if Nicolas Claxton one's out. I don't really know if he had an injury because he only played 47 games. I'm sure some of them were because he had an injury. So I don't know any of that. I've got to be honest. I haven't watched Nicolas Claxton all year, but just looking at the stats, looking at what I think his value will be, I think this is a very good option for the Chicago Bulls that will not be highly expensive and can get the job done. Next will be Moses Brown, ladies and gentlemen. I know many people like Moses Brown on this channel. I believe we were talking very highly about him throughout last season, wanting him to come to the Chicago Bulls. He pretty much went to every single other team besides the Chicago Bulls, which is very, very frustrating. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is, again, probably the last option on the list for the Chicago Bulls, but I do feel like he can do a good job. He played 49 games for a bunch of teams. I think the last team he played for was the Cleveland Cavaliers. His season average was 4.3 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, 0 assists, shooting 59.3% from the field, did not take nor make a three-point shot. Now, when it comes to Moses Brown, I feel like at the very beginning, he was very much highly populated around the league. I think he had his best season under the OKC Thunder, but everywhere else didn't really get a grasp of that center position. This guy kind of reminds me, not necessarily by the playing style or anything like that, but he kind of reminds me of a Tony Bradley type player, a guy that has a lot of potential around the league. A lot of people think could bring value to their center position, is an underrated player, maybe a player many people don't necessarily talk about or look at, but can make an impact if you give him the right opportunity. And obviously OKC was the one that really stood out for me, but all in all, not necessarily the best stats, not necessarily the best minutes played. Started 14 games this season, only averaged 12 minutes per game. And in terms of the rim protection side of things, his blocks were 0.5 blocks per game, I believe, so half a block a game, which again doesn't necessarily scream out to you rim protection, doesn't necessarily scream out to you defensively, but I think if you watch this game, you know this guy can rebound the ball like it's nobody's business, and I think he can play some very solid defense in the backup center role. But in all honesty, I don't think the Chicago Bulls should be looking at this guy as a top priority. I think last year, with the stats that he had and I guess the potential and the hype that he had, it was worth a look, and we were kind of desperate for a backup center. Knowing that we have a lot of options left on the table for the Chicago Bulls, again, if you're looking at a starting center, you've got Rudy Gobert, that's an option. You've obviously got Mitchell Robinson, that's an option. Mo Bamba as an option. I think Nicolas Claxton should be an option. I think Moses Brown is not necessarily the best option available there, but he's definitely another player that I feel like the Chicago Bulls should be looking at. In terms of his contract, he's not making that much whatsoever for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he's also going to be a restricted free agent. I do feel like he is going to be the cheapest of the lot, and that's why I can see a team swooping up very, very quickly. I somehow don't see him staying with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not sure why he would. I feel like they have a very big man-oriented team already. Again, just looking at their starting three, Larry Marketing is obviously a 7'1" player, usually plays as a forward, but maybe could play as a center here and there. Evan Mobley, one of the best rookies that we've seen so far in terms of that class. Fantastic player in my opinion. Jarrett Allen, one of the best rim protectors and defenders in the NBA. You even got Kevin Love off the bench, though still has a year left on his contract. I'm not really sure if it's the best, I guess, place for Moses Brown to be, but at the end of the day, he's there at the moment. It's not really up to him, I guess you could say, if he stays with Cleveland or not. And I feel like he'd get more of an opportunity here. But as a Bulls team, I've got to be honest, he's not my first choice. He's pretty much, very much down in the pecking order just based on stats, his age as well, and I guess what he was able to do for multiple other teams before he ends up coming here. So he reminds me of Tony Bradley in that way. But at the end of the day, those are two players that I feel like the Chicago Bulls at the end of the day maybe will take a look at for that rim protection and for that backup center position. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.